Several years ago, I was given a small book entitled, "If You Don't Know Where You're Going, You'll Probably End Up Someplace Else." It seems to have been a popular book because it's been revised and republished 3 times since that original edition. While the book is designed to help a person choose a successful career, the title certainly speaks to the church and the importance of planning. Perhaps you've heard variations on the title. If you don't know or care where you're going, how or if you get there doesn't matter. And another, if you don't know where you're going, how will you know if you've arrived? Jesus talked about the importance of planning. It's recorded by Luke. He said, "For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not first sit down and estimate the cost to see whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it will begin to ridicule him, saying, 'This fellow began to build and was not able to finish.' Or what king going out to wage war against another king will not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to oppose the one who comes against him with 20,000? If he cannot, then while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for the terms of peace." Jesus' counsel on planning suggests a fundamental principle in most anything we do. How does God approach it? This principle works in our relationships with people in our congregations. It works when we think of church discipline, and it works when we think of church planning. Can you imagine God sitting down to plan? Wait a minute. Can you imagine God doing anything without planning? What kind of chaos would we have in our world today if God had used his creative abilities without a plan? The outcome of his plan for creation on this planet is recorded in Genesis 1 and 2. Picture the Godhead together preparing for creation of life on this planet. Can you even begin to comprehend all the details involved? I often wonder how he thought of building all the systems that make up the human body and designing them to work in perfect harmony. It boggles my mind. Try to listen as the Godhead plans. One of them raises the question, we're committed to giving these new creatures the freedom to make decisions. What are we going to do if they decide not to be loyal to us? Thus was conceived the plan of salvation. Through planning, God was not caught off guard, and he hasn't ended up someplace else either. I suspect your mind is racing with other examples of God planning. I remind you of 2. The construction of the wilderness sanctuary and the construction of Solomon's temple. In both cases, there are many details spelled out with careful precision. And interestingly, both of them required fundraising. God's planning for creation suggests the following reasons for planning. First, we plan in order to know where we're going. Second, we plan in order to figure out how to get there. And third, we plan in order to know when we have arrived. In their book, Local Church Planning, Richard Roosbolt and his colleagues describe a planning process around 5 phases. Number 1, identify the purpose of your church. Number 2, develop goals. Number 3, design your mission. Number 4, manage your mission. And number 5, evaluate the mission. Probably you're familiar with these elements in the life of your church. Planning a fundraising campaign requires the same elements. A clear mission statement for your church will help to identify how the project for which you are raising money helps to fulfill the church's mission. Do you want to create a scholarship fund for your school? Is it consistent with your mission? Do you want to add children's Sabbath school classes to your building or a fellowship hall? What aspect of your mission will these fulfill? Do you need a new church building or a new school building? How will this building help your congregation lead more men and women, boys and girls, to the Lord Jesus? How will it help you nurture them for readiness to meet Him? On the other side, how does the absence of the fulfilled project inhibit the performance of your church's mission? You can easily see how asking such questions within your congregation will begin to build the enthusiasm necessary to complete the project and fund it as well. A clear mission statement for the church and for a specific project carries with it objectives and goals. You can write good goals if you use the acronym SMART. Goals should be specific. A good goal should state clearly what you want to do. Goals should be measurable. Can you measure the progress toward the conclusion? Goals should be attainable. Is it really doable? Goals should be relevant. Is it relevant to the mission of the project, the mission of the church? And goals should be time sensitive. What are the proposed deadlines? Mission design for fundraising begins by identifying the participants. In mission planning for your church, you identify who can help achieve the goal. You recruit volunteers. You nominate church officers. A fundraising plan takes the same step by identifying the possible donors. It is not enough to simply trust that the membership will all support this with their offerings. In addition to identifying the donors, you'll also identify participants in the fundraising. And you'll need to identify the assignment for the fundraising volunteers. You'll need to outline the expectations. You'll need to develop the timeline for their action. Identify what preparation they'll need for their work. Part of the mission design, even for the fundraising mission, is the development of a budget. You'll have in mind what it will cost for the project. You'll also need to identify the cost of raising the money. In managing your mission, you monitor the work of each participant and the progress toward the goal. Mission evaluation constantly asks such questions as, how are we doing? Are we on target? What is going well? What didn't work the way we expected? I like what Solomon said about planning. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to want. Whether for your church at large or for a fundraising campaign, successful planning works best if many people are involved. Your church board should be heavily involved in the planning process, of course. But depending on the size of your congregation or your project, the board may appoint a carefully selected committee who reports frequently to the board. Your planning group, whether the board or a subcommittee, should take all the time necessary to develop the plan. There are several benefits to be derived from good planning. First, planning frees the workforce by clarifying the responsibilities. Second, planning redirects thinking to future outcomes and the required steps to get to the desired goal. You see, too much of church ministry focuses on today, the here and now, and becomes merely reactionary. Good planning moves from reaction to proaction. Planning involves many in the decisions. Do you suppose Solomon had this in mind when he wrote, "Without counsel, plans go wrong, but with many advisors, they succeed." Planning draws your members into the project earlier, thus increasing their buy-in or commitment to the project. Planning lays a foundation for enthusiasm for the desired objective. Planning keeps ministry or mission on task. It provides accountability. Planning enables the smarter, not harder way of working for both the pastor and the members who volunteer their spiritual gifts. At the outset of this module, we laughingly said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably end up someplace else. It's reasonable to ask what the someplace else looks like in the realm of fundraising. Let me suggest a few outcomes of failure to plan well for fundraising. First, we lose credibility. Secondly, the church loses the confidence of the membership. They may still attend, but their contributions will be less than the potential. And this results in donor distrust. It will develop quickly if people don't think we know what we're doing. Fourth, we might ask the wrong donors to support our project. And fifth, we may not be prepared for deadlines. Sixth, we may not reach our goal. And finally, the project languishes or dies, just as Jesus said, leaving the building unfinished. In Chapter 4 of the notebook Successful Fundraising, you'll find a form which you can use to sharpen your planning for a successful fundraising campaign. In addition, PSI can provide you with a variety of sample plans that may help you design your plan.